Okay, it's so great to have such a nice little intimate group today and welcome you guys all here today. I just wanted to ask by show of hands, anyone who has experienced some kind of traumatic event in your work or has seen some kind of traumatic event in your work as a nurse. Maybe. No, we can't see everyone's hands. And then another show of hands who has had experienced any kind of symptoms related to a mental health issue or even been diagnosed with a mental health illness, anxiety, depression, PTSD, or changes in your mood or behavior or sleep patterns or something like this. Maybe. Okay. So if that's you, you're not alone. This is really common. Actually, we were just looking at a study that showed, especially among frontline nurses working on the front lines, 85% had said that they'd witnessed or experienced some kind of traumatic event at work and had experienced some kind of symptoms related to a mental health issue. And 33% had been diagnosed with PTSD. And so this is actually a pretty common thing. And I know it's something that I wasn't so aware of when I worked in an emergency room and refugee camps, that I was being exposed to traumatic things, to death and suffering. And I didn't necessarily really know how it was affecting me or know how to process it or know what resources were available, how to care for myself about these things. So that's part of why I'm really passionate about sharing this, about learning more about it for myself and bringing more awareness to it and sharing it with other nurses as well. So we're really happy to have Shelby here with us today. Shelby is a really amazing resource for us. She is a coach and a mentor and a former licensed psychotherapist. She has over 15 years of clinical experience working in somatic therapy with a specialization or expertise in the field of trauma. And she's going to be sharing with us some practices and exercises today of somatic therapy so that we can learn how to regulate our nervous systems and to respond to traumatic events we may be facing at work and to build our resiliency in the face of that. And she has a lot of experience working one-on-one with nurses as well. And she's also a creator of online courses, one called Creating Safer Spaces. And she's offered us a discount for anyone who wants to access that course after this session as well. So we're super happy to have Shelby here. I will turn it over to Shelby. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Janelle and Claudia, for inviting me. I feel incredibly honored to be here with all of you nurses and just so much respect for what you're doing, what you're bringing to the world. And as you were introducing me, Janelle, I started getting tears in my eyes, just feeling the importance of what you all do and also what you all have been through. In my private practice, I think probably 60 or 70% of my clients are either nurses or doctors. And they have been through so much. Just what we see, what they see day to day, it's a lot, and it's a lot to process. And we're not going to spend the hour, just to preface, going through any of that. We're not going to go through the past stories or anything you've experienced. We don't need to do that in order to process it at all. I just want to kind of send my heart out to you for everything you go through. You know, even if you're not in a kind of a traumatic care unit, folks come in every day when sharing things in their intake forms with all sorts of things that they've experienced in their life. And most of you, I am guessing, tend to care a lot. And so you probably take that onto your heart and carry that through your days. And so for me, it's just an honor to be here with you, collaborating with you today to figure out how I can help care for you a bit, because I know that nurses have a real habit of caring for others a little bit better than they care for themselves. Maybe not all of you, but if you can resonate with that, those of you that I can see, can you raise your hand? Yeah, yeah. So this is going to be an interactive session as much as possible. I'm going to invite you to share in the chat or maybe even to speak out loud sometimes so that we can bring the collective wisdom of the group. I know you all have so much experience. Many of you already probably know a lot of this, and it can just be so good to keep hearing it again and again and to be able to resonate with what other people, how other people are working with it. And so we're going to kind of brainstorm together how we can regulate our nervous systems, and people have all sorts of practices. And so it's not just going to be me sharing them with you. I'm going to invite you all to share too. So, you know, if you need to put your distractions aside, put your cell phone aside, and really give yourself this time to be as fully here as possible, if you can. That would be so wonderful, so that you can just kind of receive the presence of each other and just let yourself rest. That would be amazing. And just, we'll start with a practice, and then I'm going to describe a little bit about the word somatic, because I know that word's very confusing to people, and this session is called somatic therapy, and we're talking about trauma awareness and regulation. So before we do that, I just want to take a moment and have everybody orient to the spaces that you're in. And before we do that, I'll just share this orienting practice communicates through our vagal nerve to our hearts that we are safe, or we are safer. Many times we are kind of stuck in our brains, and when we don't actually let our body take in our environment, we can run a little bit more activation and stress in our bodies. And so we can use this activation practice all day, or orienting practice all day, every single day, to teach our nervous systems we are safe. It's okay to come into the parasympathetic. I know where the exit door is. I know where that sweet picture is that I love to look at. I know where I can connect with things that help me feel a little more present. So in this moment, if you're willing, go ahead and just slowly allow your eyes to look around your space. And maybe it's a space that you've been in 1,000 times before. Maybe it's the very first time you've been here. And see if it's possible to take in this environment as though it's the very first time you've been here, with fresh eyes, as though you were kind of maybe newly born. What are these colors? What are these shapes? Noticing light and shadows. Use your whole head and neck to look up and down and all around, slowly, slowly. You can even have your eyes soft and allow the room to come to you instead of looking out, efforting to look at things. Just notice what grabs your attention. And you can even look through your environment in a way where you're kind of looking to connect with something that feels pleasant or comforting to look at. Might be a particular color that you really enjoy, or the way the light reflects off of something. And then if you find something that feels particularly interesting, you can allow your eyes to just land there with it for a moment. Notice what happens as you get really curious about this. Notice what happens with your breath. You can even notice if there's kind of a you can bring in a playful sense of enjoyment and curiosity with this really simple object or light or shadow. Maybe you can feel your feet on the ground a little bit better, or your seat in the chair. Maybe not, maybe it's the opposite. Whatever you notice is welcome. And then allow your eyes to travel one more time through your space and see if there's one more thing that calls your attention that feels comforting or pleasant to look at. And you'll notice your mind will want to make up all sorts of stories about it. And when you notice that, just come back and really hone in on the color, the texture. And take 3 breaths with this object. And then you can bring your attention back towards the call. And just notice if anything feels different or better than when we began. And this is just gathering information. There's no need for anything to be different. And if anything you noticed felt interesting, you're welcome to type it into the chat. It could be maybe your breath felt different, or you noticed your breath when you weren't paying attention to it before. It might be you noticed the lamp in your room has particular color that you never noticed before. So this is a practice that we can do anytime we walk into a new space. Walk into our kitchen, we walk into our office, the grocery store, into a conversation with somebody that where we're anticipating it might be a little bit of a difficult conversation. We can do it in a time where we're excited to walk into a space, and it will help us be even more present. I'm curious if anyone has noticed any effect just from those few minutes. Is anyone feeling more present or anything else? You can feel free to just turn your mic on and speak or type in the chat. Grace, more present. Yeah. I noticed that my whole body feels like a little heavier and a little bit more like it's melted into the chair. And I just want to give you this as a really simple tool, but the more you practice it, the easier it is to access. And I'm historically somebody that carries a lot of adrenaline and stress with me everywhere I go. And I have a history that makes me think, oh, this could go wrong, or this could be bad, or this could be scary. And so I used to walk into spaces just absolutely sure that I needed to leave soon because I didn't want to be there. And so starting to do this practice helps me feel more comfortable and at ease and in myself, more connected everywhere I go. So take that with you if you notice it helps a bit. And Janelle shared that she notices her breath feels slower. Yeah, I noticed that in my breath too. So somatic, for those of you that don't know, often people think it means sleep, and it might, but in the way that we are referring to it today, it's body, and that our minds and our bodies are connected. And I'm sure many of you have felt that, have seen that, know that, and understand it. The way that I think about it is that our bodies carry every past experience that we have had. Even if our minds have kind of processed it, our minds move really, really fast and are good at jumping from one thing to the next and keep continuing to move forward and forward and forward. Our bodies kind of collect everywhere we've ever been, everything from pleasant to unpleasant. And so when we can begin to have a conversation and a connection between our minds and our bodies, something happens where we can start to process out a lot of what's happened without needing to talk it out so much. We can support our bodies so that we can regulate. And what regulating means is often we'll go into one state or another, like fight, flight, freeze, collapse. Those are a handful of them. Or what I like to call it is like within our window of tolerance, we like to be balanced, and where we can breathe, we can stay present. That's regulation. When we're out of regulation, we're in the future, we're in the past, we're reacting, we're tense, we're tight, or we're the opposite. We're totally collapsed, depressed, can barely move, super heavy. And so when we can support our bodies to enjoy feeling our breath, breathing steadily, having a steady heartbeat, feeling able to tolerate, like even slowing down enough to be curious about what's going on in our bodies, that will support just allowing difficult experiences to move through. When we're just moving through life from here, it's like we're missing this whole entire surface area that can help us process everything that we've gone through. So it's kind of double-edged. It's like our bodies can carry everything, but when we're connected to them, we can also allow everything to move through. And so if you've been on the last couple of calls, like doing the Tibetan Buddhist practice that supports connecting with our breath, allowing more space for things to process through, the restorative yoga class, that's a mind-body practice where we're connecting in a more slow way and creating a new communication and connection for things to just process naturally. So we don't have to talk it out. Our minds just work so hard all day anyways. So somatic is mind-body connection. And so when I support folks, a lot of people think, oh, I'm going to therapy, I've got to talk it all out and I have to relive that past traumatic thing, and oh, that sounds awful, I don't want to do it. That's not what we do in somatic psychotherapy. You're always welcome to share your story. And this isn't a pitch. I'm just telling you that like there's a way to move through difficult and challenging experiences differently, where we can sink into our bodies and allow the wisdom of our bodies to do a lot of the listening and the processing. And I'm going to walk you through some of this. What happens when we've had a lot of challenging and stressful and traumatic experiences is a lot of us leave our bodies because it hurts in here. It's scary in here. A lot of us survived through learning how to take off out of our bodies. And so coming into our body is something that needs to happen very, very, very slowly and very lovingly. So many people promote like body this, body that, somatic everything. And it's like, yes, it is absolute joy when we can come back and live in this beautiful space of our bodies, but it's little by little by little. And so I just want to honor those of you who may be people who live out of your bodies. And it's like, it's not a problem. How incredible that you as a human being figured out how to do that in order to cope, in order to get through life, in order to keep moving one step in front of the other. We want to celebrate the heck out of that. And so one way we can start building relationship between mind and body is just through understanding how we go out and how we come back in, and starting to study that and pay attention to that. So I want to share my screen because I'm guessing some of you are a little more sciencey and maybe like things like graphs like I do. So can you all see this? Yeah, okay. So this is one model. I like this model of the window of tolerance. I like the polyvagal. If you're a super nerd, go check out the polyvagal theory. It's beautiful. But this is a nice one for short and sweet. We all have this window of tolerance where when we're being mindful, when we're centered, when we can feel our breath, when we're more at peace and contentment, we're in the middle of our window. And we're able to respond to life's events. When we go out of our window, we can go up or out or down and out. We're going into our sympathetic nervous system, and we go into reactive survival mode. And when we're up and out, our hearts start beating really fast. Our breath can be really shallow. It might go shallow and fast too. And we look at this as fight or flight, and sometimes freeze. Some people will just feel so stuck and tense and tight. Mind goes blank, and it's so much activation. The first level of activation is fight, and then when you can't fight, there's flight, and when you can't flight, freeze. It's the highest level. And after that, collapse, play dead, just so, if we think of animals, so the animal will just leave you alone. So we start to begin to understand, oh my goodness, when I have stress, let's talk about it in terms of stress and not even trauma. Something super stresses me out. I feel really challenged by it. Somebody criticized me. My whole system just went into, I can't breathe. I feel tight. I feel overwhelmed. We go up and out. We're hyper. This is the sympathetic nervous system, kicks into gear. It's trying to help us survive. We pat it on the back. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And then what we'll start to notice is, how do we come back in? Many of us will do this cycle 1,000 times in a day. If you're doing this cycle, it's normal. And so we use our mindfulness to go, what tipped me out where I couldn't be present anymore? And what started bringing me back in? Was it my heartbeat started racing, and then I made that impulsive text message, and then I went into flight from the shame that I felt from that? And then what brought me back in? Did I call a friend? Did I do a yoga class? Did I go for a walk in nature? Did I read a book? What got my heartbeat back to normal? What got my breath back to normal? And then on the other end, if you're somebody who kind of goes out, it's debatable where freeze is, but I actually should have put it on the top according to how I just described it. Not that important, but when we go down, we can kind of collapse. We can get into that helplessness, the unbearable tears, the sorrow, the deep depression. I can't live here. And we notice what tips us down into that place. And we bring so much compassion to all of these things. But we go, oh yeah, when I received that email or I saw that event, immediately my whole body felt like the blood drained out of it. I wanted to curl up in a ball and just lay on the floor. Yes, that's what took me out. That's what takes me out. What brought me back in was I laid under my weighted blanket. I ate some food that I love. I listened to or I watched a sweet golden retriever Facebook video. I do that a lot. Oh, that brings a little bit more aliveness. It makes me laugh. Okay, my breathing comes back up. My heartbeat comes back up. And then I start making a list of what's going on inside the middle of that window of tolerance. I'm gathering data. I'm gathering information. When we're mindful, it just gives us information. So I want to hear from you. If you'd be up to just write in the chat, or you can speak out loud. What happens in the middle for you? What supports you to be resourced, which means supported, centered, grounded? What helps you to breathe normally? It could be anything. There's no wrong answers here. And you can share with us what helps you stay right there in the middle, or what helps you come back. Let me see if I can see the chat while I'm sharing.
Yeah. If you can't see it, I can read it out. Can you see it? Okay, great.
Yep. So Patty shared, when I meditate. Yeah, that brings you back in or helps you stay in. Kathy, meditation, physical activity, go for a walk. Yes. Fishing, absolutely. Calm and controlled breathing, meditation, taking a walk. I'm seeing some patterns here. Walk is a big pattern here. Taking a long drive in my car, music on loud. Yes, absolutely. Deep breathing. Absolutely. Fishing. nature, gardening, hiking, meditation, hugging my partner. There are some major themes here. So I'm hearing meditating helps many of you. Being in nature, moving your body helps. Sounds like hands in earth or like with fish in the river. And I love, you named Grace, hugging my partner. If you have access to a person that you really enjoy being around, this is one that's frequently named. And also pets. Anyone resonate with pets? Do pets help you stay in the middle there, regulated? Yeah, for me, even if I imagine a yellow lab, if I like imagine laying my head on their chest, I can slowly bring myself back into this state of feeling centered. Yeah, Johanna, labs, just labs. What is it about them? Nature, sleep, relax with kids and husband. This list, just keep bringing it, the whole class. And everybody take notes. If there's anything in there you don't do and you're curious about it, try it. So the last thing I want to say about this chart is the lines, and you can't see my finger, but you can see my mouse. These lines, the more mindful we are, and the more we add resources to our toolbox, the more we're willing, when we're able and centered, to go for walks in nature, to give ourselves a chance to meditate. For me, Epsom salt bath every day, to bond with friends and people we love and pets, all of that. The wider the window grows. So this window can grow so wide that it can encapsulate all of these ups and downs. And then we never go into fight, flight, freeze, or collapse. And it's actually mindfulness that helps us grow it, because when we're watching what we're doing, when we're going towards, we can go, oh, I'm noticing. Oh, and I'm going to do that thing where I call a friend. Oh, I'm noticing I got to go for a walk now. Because once we go out, it's like we're gone until time. And then we can start adding our resources back in as soon as we are able. But once we're out, we're out. But the coolest thing about this is that we can widen our window wide enough to handle every up and down, so that we are always able to respond instead of react. That blew my mind when I knew that. I was a 100% reactor to everything all of the time. I reacted to my thoughts, to other people's looks at me, to like everything I had a judgment about or some feeling around. It was really stressful. So widening that window gives us the ability to take a breath and just go, oh, what's important here? What do I need? What's the most loving thing I can do for myself in this moment? Now it's just going to generate more and more regulation, more and more ability to stay centered and grounded, which is resilience. Our resilience will grow the more we're regulated. The other piece of this that I want to talk about is compassion and kindness. And for those of us who have experienced trauma, especially developmental trauma, complex trauma that happened in relationship, it can be really hard to tap into kindness and compassion. And so I just want to let you know, you're not alone. There can be so many folks teaching meditation and yoga and all these things, and just kind of like flippantly make it sound so easy to cultivate compassion and kindness. And I'm not going to do that to you today. I am going to say, if you're working on cultivating that, it's gold. And for folks with trauma, it can take quite a while. So just be really patient. See if you can bring some gentleness to that. See if you can bring some kindness to that. It's like, oh, I don't, like when we don't feel safe, like when we've experienced trauma, it's that something has felt so overwhelming to our nervous system that we can't process it. And there's a part of us or parts that just don't feel safe. They're stuck in kind of feeling frightened, and it can get translated to everything. Like, I don't feel safe feeling compassion. I don't feel safe offering myself kindness. I don't feel safe you offering me kindness, because if I feel safe, then I might feel okay, and then my story of suffering might go, and then I don't know who I'll be anymore. And will people even know that I had a hard time there? And it's like, oh, all of these things are in place for such important reasons. And so the more we can wrap our hearts around these pieces of like, yes, keep moving towards the kindness practices and the compassion. And it's like, and when we don't feel that, what can we be gentle with? So I want to give us another body-based practice that will help kind of bring some regulation on board if we find ourselves going out of that window of tolerance. And if you're in a chair, wonderful. If you can't sit in a chair or your body's in pain right now, you're welcome to stand or lie down. And we can just modify the practice however it works for your body. Take care of your body first. And just as we begin the practice, see if it's possible to have both of your feet flat on the floor. And first, just see if your body needs to move and shift. We've been sitting for a little while. And take a few breaths. Oh, every time I remember to breathe, my body is like, oh yeah, I wanted to move. I'm really good at not doing that. And if you're sitting, then what you can do, and no, you don't have to be totally still for this practice. You can move your upper body as much as you like. And send your attention down into the bottoms of your feet if you're sitting. And on each inhale, just natural inhale, no need for it to be any particular way, press like 5% into the floor, just barely. And on the exhale, release. We're going to do this for a bit. And if you're lying down, you can simply just press your heels into the surface that you're lying on. And if you're standing, you can press one foot and then the other, just kind of like you're rocking back and forth. Notice what happens just pressing so gently with the inhale. Releasing that pressure with the exhale. And allow your whole body to respond to this movement. Notice what wants to happen through your whole body. Maybe it wants to move, maybe it wants to be still. Keep going with it. We'll spend a couple of minutes just with this rhythm and play with the pressure. Notice what happens in your system if you push a little bit harder. And notice what happens when you push a little bit lighter. And if your mind becomes restless or your body becomes restless, not a problem. It's what it does. You can make space for that restlessness too. And find that sweet spot. Notice which level of pressure brings the most ease to your body, to your heart, to your breath, to your mind. And then you can slowly release that pressure and just take a few breaths, tuning in and seeing if anything inside feels different or better. And then you can begin to bring your attention towards the room, feeling the air on your face. Maybe hearing sounds around you. And then bringing the light to your eyes if your eyes were closed. Looking up and around, coming back into your space. And then if you're willing, we'll take a couple more minutes and then we're gonna do just a quick brainstorm. Is it okay if we're done at 55? Yeah, okay. So I'd love to hear from you in the chat. What did you notice there? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Did something feel supportive? Could you connect with it? And you can also speak out loud too, if you like.
Well, when I was pressing my feet into the ground more firmly, I felt like my whole body was tensing, actually. So it felt more relaxed to press it lightly. And then at the end, I felt my heart rate and breathing was slower.
Yeah, good noticing. Thank you, Claudia. And Tabitha felt super relaxed and heavy, connected to the ground in a good way. Yeah. And Diana asked about the graph. Can we find it somewhere? I can send it to Janelle and maybe she could put it on the site or somewhere helpful. Yeah. Yeah, so keep typing if you want. And I just want to end today with a group brainstorm because the last piece is really like, we want to keep regulation simple. Some of us don't have time for hour practices every day or want to do hour practices a day. We want something where we can like walk into our office, get ready, go, right? And pleasure and soothing is very overlooked, and it can be incredible in healing, in growing resilience, to take 2 minutes every day where we do something that is soothing. And so something that I do is just really gently pet my hair, my face. You're welcome to try it. Maybe it totally creeps you out. If so, don't do that. Some people just like to kind of like pet their own hands, bring lotion to them or whatever, and take 2 mindful minutes to really see if it's possible to take in, oh, that feels nice. Oh, that feels really sweet. And this nourishes the immune system probably, but the nervous system. Other soothing things are take a hot bath maybe, or put on a nice piece of music, have something in your office or your workspace, or like when you're getting ready or coming back that's beautiful to look at. Like for me, I'm a nerd for flowers, so I always have beautiful flowers everywhere because it brings me into the present moment, and that's what we're going for. So this very last ask of you is, what are some soothing things that you do that just kind of gives you permission to have some pleasure in your life, some luxury, to just bring some nourishment? It can be maybe like your favorite food or chicken soup. It could be anything. And you can type that in the chat or speak out loud. And Johanna, thank you so much for saying it can be a bit stressful to be present in your body. Yes. In that case, I really recommend starting to listen to sounds or using that original orienting practice, but letting it be a little external. Tabitha, scented candles. Claudia, favorite music and dance. Yes. Essential oils, stroking my hair, skin, soothing music, dancing, candles, chocolate. Okay, this list is gorgeous. Music, deck in the forest, hand on my heart. I do that a lot too. Listening to silence, birds, smell of lavender. So I'll let you guys keep adding as Janelle or Claudia takes the call back over. And I just want to thank you all again for the gorgeous work you're doing in the world, and really celebrate you for taking this time for yourself. I'm just so honored to be here with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Shelby. That was beautiful. I think the graph really helped a lot of people understand how we can widen that place where we can feel calm most of the time. So thank you for that. I do want to open it up if there's any questions for Shelby, or if there's any comments that you'd like to share. You can either unmute or put it in the chat. Kathy, thank you for that. Yes, the graph is helpful.
That graph that was coined by Dan Siegel. He's at UCLA.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think we can attach it to the daily email, and we can post it on our Facebook as well. Tabitha, that was great. Joanna, love Dan Siegel. Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much, Shelby. So I'm gonna put Shelby's information on the group chat as well. So you can contact her, and she has her website as well. And tomorrow we have, actually it's kind of related. We have an EFT, emotional freedom technique practitioner, that's going to share how to do EFT. So some of you may have heard of EFT, some of you may not have, but it kind of combines theories from neuro-linguistic programming, acupuncture, energy medicine. And basically what it is you tap different points in your body while repeating certain phrases that are kind of specific to a certain issue that you might be trying to overcome. So Janelle and I both have tried this with the practitioner Lexi, and it was actually really effective. I found it really effective and really fast in calming down the nervous system. So I definitely recommend you check it out. So it'll be tomorrow, same time. And we welcome you to like us on Facebook so you can keep updated, and also join our community as well. We have a Mindful Nurses community on Facebook, and we plan to keep this going. When the series is over, we're going to keep posting different wellness practices, discussions, and arrange events when we're able to meet up in person. I'm in California. Well, Janelle's in Bali at the moment, but she'll come back to the States at some point. Yeah, and we want to do retreats. So we also, yeah, want to keep it going. But thank you so much for your guys' time, and have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. And thank you, Shelby. So wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.